I want to talk about what happens and also what we can do when we become triggered by something. And actually, these days, I prefer the word activated by something. And so there's an old wound or an old trauma or something that through an experience gets activated. Okay, and this is natural. My truth is that wound is getting activated, so we have an opportunity to heal it. Now, it's rarely convenient when it gets activated, and we do need to learn to manage ourselves in the situation when it does. But so it's very natural. It happens. It happens in relationships. It happens at work. It happens with kids. So it's very natural for this to happen. And there is an opportunity here, but it is scary, and we do need some skills to manage it. So let's look at what happens. This is my theory anyway. This is it's a lens of looking at what happens, is the way I want to talk about it. I'm not going to say this is the thing that happens, but it's one way, it's one perspective on what happens when we get activated. So I like the word activate because it's like, what is getting activated? So what is getting activated is a wound, okay? And usually that wound or that trauma has some fear attached to it. Okay, so it's a frightened, wounded part of ourselves. Okay, and then when it gets activated, there's a tendency for it to kind of freak out, and through the fear of that happening, we often will often dissociate or leave our body. Okay, and so the first thing to do, and the other thing I'd like to say, I really like here the schema, if you will, of the like the inner child or parts of ourselves that are wounded. A wounded inner child kind of takes the helm. We get spun out, we dissociate. What happens is that wounded child, which was probably in our, deeper in our unconscious, our conscious mind was in control and was managing our life before we got activated. Then when that happened, dissociate, the wounded child, the fear part of us, the aspect that's wounded and afraid, then takes the helm of the ship. Okay, and it's hyper vigilant. It's like, and it's dissociated. So the first thing to do is to find a way to get back in your body. Well, the first thing to do actually is to realize that you've been activated. Okay, and if you're freaking out about something, and you're just spun out and you can't access your resources and you can't think right, and you're on these patterns that you're thinking over and over, and you're seeing things negatively, and there's a good chance that you've been activated. And so it's realizing, it's like, I've been activated. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to find a way to get back in your body. Okay, to get back grounded again. And that could be going for a walk. Okay, it could be listening to music, it could be meditating, it could be whatever it is grounding for you. It could be smudging, it could be doing ceremony, it could be praying, whatever that might be. It could be doing yoga, it could be talking to a friend. So it's finding a way to get back in your body. And this may take some time. There's all these chemicals cruising through. It may take some time. And by the way, when you're activated and dissociated, there's no sense trying to fix any of the problems that are going on. Like, there's no sense like talking about the relationship or working something out with your boss or your friend or your kid. You're activated. Your communication skills are temporarily gone. They're offline. And what you'd be better off doing is like, you know what? We'll talk about this later. I was in a relationship a couple years ago, and we were both activated. And I realized it, and I finally just said, we're not going to get this solved tonight. What we can do is just watch a silly movie and let's talk about it in the morning, because it's just, you can't do it. So the first thing is realizing you're activated. The second is finding a way to get back in your body. Once you get back in your body, your conscious mind needs to take control. It needs to embody your being. It needs to be the captain of the ship again. And it's like, so this is the adult, okay? This is the adult conscious mind, not the wounded child, not the frightened parts of you. And so so when you do that, you're going to encounter these, it could be, one primary, it depends how you look at it. You're going to encounter these wounded children or child or these frightened parts of you. And they're going to have some things to say to you, probably. You're going to be, so then your next step is to listen and acknowledge. And I always just see it like if you've ever parented or been around parenting, or in a movie when the parent comes back and all the kids are have their complaints, it's like, then this happened and you should have seen it, then this happened, and they're all just they're all freaking out. And a good parent will just listen to them and just tell them, wow, that must have been so scary, and boy, that is really unfair. That is really, really unfair, and that's just not right. They should have never treated you that way. So this is a time to join with their reality and to hear what the experience is for that wounded part of you. It's not a time to confront that wounded part and saying, oh, well, it seems like you got a piece of this and maybe you created that for yourself. That will not work. You're taking care of that, by the way, because your adult part that is taking responsibility is in charge. So that's the part that gets confronted and has to be accountable. But the wounded parts, there's no sense trying to get them to be accountable, especially when they've just been, activated. So you're listening and saying, I know, that is so uncool. I can't believe it. And so then you acknowledge, you listen, you acknowledge, and you bond and empathize with how scary and wrong it is for them. The next phase is then to take charge and saying, okay, guys, but here's the thing. I just did a session this morning and I likened it to a pep talk that a coach gives before going into a football game. It's like, okay, guys, here's the thing. Yes, these terrible things happen. And yes, that you were such a victim and it's so wrong and all that stuff. Yes, yes, yes. But here's the thing is I've got a plan. It's like, I can take care of this. I'm here with you. I'm here for you. I've got your back. And we're going to take care of this, and we're going to do this by this, this, and this. And this is what we're going to do. Okay, so it's so what this does is it assures them, and they start settling down. They start becoming less activated. And by doing this, you're healing the wound because you're addressing it, you felt it, you're listening to it, and you're moving forward. And so then you're just like, okay, so here's what we're doing. And then, 2 hours later, they freak out again. Well, what about this? I know. But, we talked about this, is we're going to do this first. I know that's scary for you. And we're going to have to go talk to this person. But you trust me, I've got this, and you don't need to worry about it. You just give me a chance to make right on this. So that is how we can be there for these, frightened parts of us, these wounded inner child aspects of us. Okay, and if you don't like the inner child thing, I don't always like it either, but I think it really does fit here. And it's a way that you can manage. And now your conscious mind, and now you're in your body, your conscious mind is at the helm, you've got your resources, and you can move down. Now you can go back to the relationship and saying, okay, now let's talk about what happened. I think we both got activated, and let's look at this. Let's go back to the boss or the coworker or the child or the friend and just say, now we can sort this out. Okay? And you might even give yourself a little time, you know. It might even be the next day. Give yourself a break, because also it's tiring, you know. You'll probably be really exhausted and tired. So get some rest, and then now you can start putting your life back in order and you know, heal, allow the healing to happen, and learn from it. You know, you can say, how did I get activated, and how did we activate each other, and what can we do? And then you can move forward. So that is my video for this week, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing week, and just be aware, perhaps, if you do get activated, is to notice it. That first step is the toughest step sometimes, is to realize that's what happened, you know, and then get yourself back, and then, you know, reassure the frightened parts of you, and then start putting some things back in order. And I will see you in a week.